Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today I am beyond excited because we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 12, Episodes 1 and 2. Get comfortable, it's a double recap, and I have the champagne rosé on ice, so we're gonna open that right now. Woo! I was not expecting it to just pop like that. Okay, guys. Cheers to a new season of Beverly Hills, y'all. So good. But y'all, Beverly Hills came in hot. They always deliver. This season is about to be no different. And with all that being said, let us jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. So in this premiere episode, we jump right on into the robbery at Dorit and PK's home. And I remember last summer when the news dropped, everybody was discussing this, including me, and seeing it really happen, it is just completely mind-boggling. Okay, I can only imagine how she was feeling. The fact that PK wasn't even home, he was in London, and it was just her and the kids. But we see Dorit saying that she thought that that was the end for her. She thought that she was going to die. So now we flip back 3 days earlier and we see everybody doing their thing. Kyle's at home with her youngest daughter, Portia. She says that Portia today is doing so well because remember last year, Kyle was worried about her because she felt like Portia, wasn't that social. Her daughter seemed kind of depressed, and that was really worrying Kyle. But now Portia is thriving, she's flourishing, and her bat mitzvah was like 2 weeks ago, and she says that that day was one of the happiest days of her life. And I have to say, the bat mitzvah looked amazing. It was a circus theme, so you already know that Kyle and Mauricio spent top dollar. I will say that when it comes to Beverly Hills, the parties are always top notch. And being from New York, I had a lot of Jewish friends growing up, so being invited to all the barn bat mitzvahs, always a fabulous time, okay? Like, no expense was spared. So I know that everybody had a really great time at Portia's. But I'm happy to hear that Portia's doing well. And it's just so funny because I remember when Kyle got on this show, Portia was like just born. She was like 2 years old and now she's 13. It's crazy how we watch the kids grow up. So now we flip to the next scene and we see the two new best friends, Sutton and Garcelle, and they are in Miami vacationing together. And they're staying at the fabulous W South Beach. Now let me tell you something. I am a Ritz-Carlton girl through and through, but when I tell you that the W South Beach is also that girl, so I was like, okay, I know that's right. And not to get totally off topic, but I will never be here for or understand Miami slander for any reason, okay? Miami was always that girl and still is that girl. I really do love Garcelle and Sutton's friendship. They're definitely the duo that we didn't know that we needed. Like, it just came out of nowhere and they really are friends. We see them on Instagram always hanging out. Like, they really do like each other. Because remember that a lot of these women really aren't real friends unless they're filming. So it's always nice to see that some people actually are friends even when the cameras are off. But we learned that Garcelle and Sutton are in Miami because Garcelle is hosting a charity called Angels for Humanity. So while Garcelle and Sutton are talking, having a good time, Garcelle brings up the whole debacle that happened when Sutton was on Watch What Happens Live. And remember how Sutton outed Lisa Rinna and Harry Hamlin about how she was the one who got them the tickets for Elton John's charity event. So now Garcelle says, well, I honestly saw it as you defending me. Because if you watched Beverly Hills last season, which I already know that you did, they were damn near all piling up on Garcelle last season. It was Garcelle versus everybody except for Sutton. Like, Sutton was the only one who had her back. So Sutton agrees, and then she goes on to say that she doesn't want to have any beef with Lisa, and it should be fine, and it should blow over the next time they see each other. And I was like, Sutton, you know good and damn well how Lisa Rinna operates. She's about to drag this out and give you the hardest time, especially since a few other people in this group don't care for you. Okay, it's about to be hell ever since you opened your mouth. So mind you, we see a parallel scene of Lisa Rinna and Erika together. They're at Erika's house. They're making small talk, catching up. Lisa Rinna's asking Erika about this gorgeous floral arrangement that's right there in her kitchen. And she's like, oh, are these from a new admirer? Like, are you dating? Are you having sex? Erika is being coy. She says that she's not dating, but she is having good sex. And I say, yeah, girl, I'm sure you are having good sex, honey, making up for lost time. Because I know that you weren't doing anything with Tom. And that's no shade. But I think that ship sailed when he hit his 70s. But anyhow, I digress. So now Erika's asking Rinna what's going on with her. And of course, Rinna has to bring up the whole debacle with Sutton, talking about the whole Elton John event saga. So she's like, I was just in my bedroom, watching TV, minding my business. And then when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? Like, is she serious right now? So now Rinna goes on to say that Sutton only did that to show that she's such a good friend to Garcelle and how she would never do that to Sutton. I said, Rinna, okay, here's where I have to get you together, because what you won't do is play in any of our faces. You have been on this show now for what, 7, 8 seasons? And the way you have consistently thrown good friends under the bus, don't start. It's like, girl, are you living in reality? We all watch the show. We see how awful you are. There's definitely a disconnect with Rinna because she does some very evil things. And then when somebody returns that same energy, now she wants to act so shocked and surprised and act like she's a victim. Also, Rinna, I will never let you forget how you did your good friend of 20 plus years, Denise Richards. I will never let that go. So please don't ever fix your lips to say that you would never do anybody wrong. I mean, let's face it, when they all go on Watch What Happens Live, they usually do shade the cast members that they're fighting with, right? When Rena goes on Watch What Happens Live, she's shady, she's nasty. So for her to act like, Sutton was just out of line for that, it's like, no, she has every right to air out what really happened. But Rena, let me get off of this because I have more to say about you and Sutton in episode 2. Now, this next scene between Erika and Garcelle had me screaming. They're working out with a trainer. Erika's in good spirits. Garcelle's like, I don't really know where I stand with Erika because we left off on a very rocky note last year. So now they take a quick break from working out, and here's where the conversation gets real messy. Garcelle asks Erika if she plans on apologizing to Sutton. So of course Erika's playing dumb, and she's like, wait, who? Like, what? Apologize for what? So Garcelle says, look, sis, we don't have time to play games. I'm talking about Sutton. You owe her an apology. You threatened her last year. You were talking about how you're going to come for her. And remember, last season, Sutton was scared. She really thought that Erika might actually do something to her. Now, the rest of us could see right through Erika's little game. That little fake mob boss persona. It's like, girl, if you don't sit down. She watched one too many episodes of Power and The Sopranos, and she thinks she's scaring somebody. So, of course, Erika can't own up to it. She's justifying how she was acting last season by saying that Sutton backed her into a corner, how Sutton talks a lot of shit, and the fact that you can't swing at people and expect people not to swing back at you. And it's like, Sutton just had a few questions. But let's really just break it down, because everybody in the group had questions. They all had that meeting at Dorit's house where they were all expressing their concerns. And then when it was convenient, they threw Sutton under the bus. But I don't understand why Erika feels like it's wrong for people to have questions. This isn't some little petty theft situation or some rumor. This is a real deal investigation. Your soon-to-be ex-husband swindled people out of millions of dollars out of their settlement money. So please forgive us if we have some questions, comments, and concerns, because stuff didn't add up. The story still doesn't add up. So Erika is going on this super long rant about how Everything that Sutton said has been disproven. She never had the $20 million in her account. It's all a lie. And I got my entire life when Garcelle was looking at her like this. She was like, I mean, okay, if you say so. Garcelle's facial expression said it all. She was like, girl, you know what? If you want to convince yourself, then okay. But I'm not buying what you're trying to sell me. So now one of the producers goes on to ask Erika, how is all this disproven? And Erika starts cursing at the producer and she's like, you know what? I don't want to talk about this. Bravo can do their due diligence and find out for themselves. And it's like, but you just said on national TV that everything has been disproven and it's all lies. So if that's the case, then you need to break it down for us and let us know how you came to that conclusion. And I said, if I were a producer and one of these women started cursing at me, are you kidding me? Like, how dare you? They're doing their jobs. They have to ask you the hard questions. I'm just getting sick and tired of these women getting on reality TV. Then when shit hits the fan, they want to get upset at everybody for asking some questions. Don't get on reality TV then. And I loved how Garcelle said in her confessional, like, I think that Erika is super hopeful, but she's jumping the gun until we learn the real truth. And did anybody start screaming at the TV when Erika said that the documentary and all the articles are all lies? And it was like, what? I know that Erika needs the money badly, but I would have had to take a leave of absence from this show because she's opening her mouth and she's making herself look so stupid and even more guilty. I said Garcelle is better than me because I would have walked out. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to sit there and entertain this conversation. So Garcelle can already tell where this conversation is headed. And she's like, look, Erika, share what you want to share. I'm not going to ask you any more questions about Tom. I just want you to move on from this and live your life. And that's a good approach to take because when it comes to somebody like Erika, you're not getting any straight answers. And two, she hates for anybody to ask any questions about what's going on in her life. I noticed that on a lot of these franchises, that seems to be a pattern where you have a woman who's in some severe financial issue, legal issue. They don't want anybody to ask them anything. They get very upset with people when they're asked the simplest of questions about what's going on. So now we flip to one of the more important scenes of this episode, and it's the day of the robbery. So we see 5 hours beforehand, Dorit and her kids are outside, and her kids are with their karate instructor. So while they're doing karate, Dorit goes inside and she and Garcelle are on FaceTime talking. So then Dorit is saying in her confessional that her and Garcelle hit it off as great friends when they first met, but then they hit some bumps on the road. I said, no, sis, let's not do that. Let's call it what it really was. You were very nasty to Garcelle last season, and I still haven't forgiven you about you calling her a bully. Many people, including Kyle, have told you over the seasons that you're very long-winded. You don't get to the point. You and Kyle are just fine. So why were you so upset when Garcelle said it to you? And Garcelle said it in a joking manner. But they're in a great space, and now we fast forward to 5 hours later. It is nighttime, and we see the robbers come in. They break in through the window, and Dorit is recounting the entire event. She says that they had a gun to her head, and she was crying and pleading for them not to touch or hurt her kids. Now, let me just say this. While Dorit is not my favorite cast member, I will say that I did feel bad for her. You can see that she is visibly shaken up, and just hearing her say how she was begging and pleading for her life and her children's life, I can only imagine how she felt. And I have to say, thank God that the robbers were not evil and they didn't harm them. I was really happy to find out that the kids didn't even know that this happened. But we see the next day where all the ladies are going over to Dorit's house to check up on her. Kyle, Erika, Rinna are over. They're shaken up about the whole thing. Now, I remember when the news first broke out about the robbery, people were speculating that PK and Dorit we're trying to pull some insurance scam because we know that they've been having some financial issues that they have kept off the show. But let me just tell you something. Seeing Dorit breaking down and crying like that in that confessional, seeing the footage, I don't think that there's anything fake about this. Now, this next scene, we have a whole lot to unpack. Kyle's at her Bel Air home. She's crying. She's very emotional and very shaken up about what has happened to PK and Dorit. Sutton arrives, and Kyle's like, can you believe that this has happened to our friends? Like, this is crazy. So just as Kyle starts crying, Sutton interrupts, and she's like, well, I've been putting out my own fires today. You know, one of my French designers got held up at immigration, so it just really sucks for me. Like, I'm just really stressed out. Kyle's looking at her like, are you serious right now? Like, one of our very good friends just got held at gunpoint in her own home, and you're talking about you're so stressed about your French designer not being able to come to the States. Like, are you serious right now? Now, I'm not the biggest Kyle fan, but I was absolutely on her side when she was like, is Sutton that wrapped up in herself? That was not the time to discuss trivial issues about a French designer of yours who couldn't come to the States for whatever reason. And for you to be a Southern belle and a woman who is very much by the book when it comes to manners and class and etiquette, that was in poor taste. And I was taken aback, like, wait, what? Like, is Sutton for real right now? You have to just read the room. Again, someone's held at gunpoint. You're talking about some designer couldn't come. It's not the time for that. Now, while I've grown to like Sutton, I do have to say one thing hasn't changed with her. She's still very socially awkward. Now, I'm not going to get on Sutton too hard because these other women have said worse and they've displayed worse behavior, i.e. Rena and Erika, I'm looking right at you. Kyle's still in shock at Sutton's reaction, and now they change topics, and Sutton brings up how she wants Crystal to set her up on some dates because she's single and ready to mingle. So now she's going on to say that she doesn't really care if the man is rich or not because she has her own money. Now, Sutton, I don't believe that. I don't see you of all people not wanting a man who has money. And also, sis, I think that you should keep money on your list because your net worth is rather large. Maybe if she's looking for a little fling, but if she wants a relationship that could lead to marriage, girl, I think you want somebody with some money. Listen, whatever I do or don't have in the bank, I want some money. So now they get on the topic of what happened between Sutton and Erika last year. Kyle says, look, we all say things we don't mean, and I have to say I still feel really bad because I didn't have your back last season. And I said, Kyle, that's absolute BS. The only reason why you felt bad about not defending Sutton last year was because the fans tore you up. It's always so funny to me when the ladies will change their tune once they receive backlash from us viewers. So now Kyle starts defending Erika, and she's like, look, that night at Kathy's house, I know that what she said was wrong to you, but just imagine she was crying her eyes out when she left. So Sutton's like, girl, are you serious right now? You're defending her of all people? She threatened me, but you want to defend her? So Sutton shuts it down. She's like, I don't want to hear it. This is pathetic to me. The fact that you want to defend this woman, like, go talk to the victims. And when I tell you I was so here for Sutton, when she was like, it's just so funny to me that I get in trouble for saying stuff, but the men don't. And she's referring to Mauricio and PK, because remember that they were making jokes about the whole entire thing too. So now Kyle's like, well, actually, she was mad at all of us for that. And we know how Kyle is. Kyle's one of those people who can't stand when somebody's mad at her. So she's always just so upset. She's like, you know what? I don't think that Erika has forgiven me about that. And it's like, who cares? I would be standing 10 toes down in it like, yup, me, my husband, PK, and Dorit, we're all making jokes, laughing about it. Yup, like, what are you gonna do? Not be my friend anymore? Okay. I guess I'll see you around. But like I said, I was glad that Sutton brought that up because it's clear that Erika has selective outrage about who she wants to hold a grudge against and be mad at. Because again, why is Sutton getting all this smoke? So now we get to the final scene of this premiere episode and we see Kyle at home and she's having all the ladies over, including Dorit. And so while she's waiting behind the bar for everybody to arrive, Erika arrives first. Now Kyle is visibly nervous about Erika being there. They share a hug. Kyle says that she doesn't want any ill feelings or bad vibes between the two of them. And it's like, Kyle, you should never let anybody get you this worked up and this nervous, especially in your own home. Erika's gonna have to deal with it. Let's go one step further. Did Erika apologize for cursing at the other ladies and being really nasty and making threats? So then why do you feel the need to apologize over some silly joke that was told? Again, Erika would not be getting any apology from me. That's really what gets me, because these women want to be the villain and the victim at the same time. You can only be one. Pick a side and stay there. So now Rinna arrives and now Dorit arrives. Dorit is shaken up. So now Dorit is retelling the story. Then she goes on to say how the second gunman was yelling to kill her. And so she was begging and pleading for her life to please spare her and her babies. So now at this point, Dorit is sobbing. And Kyle starts sobbing. And I'm one of those people too, where if you start crying, I'm going to start crying. So like, I completely get it. So they're crying, and now Dorit goes on to say how at one point she envisioned them killing her and her kids. So while they're consoling Dorit, Kyle's dogs start barking, and now Dorit starts freaking out. She's like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? Like, Kyle, get your dogs right now. Like, somebody call PK. And you can just tell that she's just still really shaken up. And that's what happens when you go through a very traumatic event, especially something like that. You're going to be really just all out of sorts when you hear a loud noise. So now Garcelle arrives. She's greeting everybody. And while she's hugging Dorit, she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, because just a few hours ago, we were on the phone talking, like your kids were outside doing karate, me and you were having a good conversation, and for this to have happened, you know, a few hours after is crazy. Did you guys catch when Erika said to Garcelle, yeah, Garcelle, they put a gun to her head? And I was like, what was that about? I got the impression that Erika was trying to act like Garcelle didn't believe Dorit. Because why did you feel the need to say that? Yeah, Garcelle, they put a gun to her head. You didn't say that to anybody else, so why are you saying that to Garcelle? I'll be so happy when Cherie makes her introduction. Will Smith's ex-wife, who Garcelle's good friends with, who's also going to be a friend of the show. I can't wait when she joins, because Garcelle really needs some backup. So now we see PK arrive from LAX, and he is now at Kyle and Mauricio's house. And he immediately goes to hug Dorit, and he's crying. PK says that he's been shaken up. He goes on to say that he was crying at the airport and how Dorit is really strong. So now Rinna says, guys, I'm just so sorry that this happened. I feel really guilty because I'm planning a 70th birthday party for Harry, and I think I might cancel it. So now PK says, no, Rena, don't cancel it. We celebrate despite the tragedy happening. So now everybody's leaving Kyle and Mauricio's home, and as Dorit and PK are going back to their car, PK realizes that he left his phone at their house. So as he's going back inside to get it, Dorit's outside and she is breaking down. Like, she is sobbing. I felt bad for Dorit because you can see that she is going through it. And to be 24 hours removed from such a sad situation, you could only imagine all the stuff going through her head. And that's just tough. So now we jump into episode 2, and we started off with PK and Dorit at home. Their personal security is downstairs. And I said, listen, after a robbery like that, I would have a bodyguard, security guard at every corner of the house, okay? In the bathrooms, in the basement, like in the hallway, like no corner of that house would be unguarded. So PK and Dorit are discussing the whole entire incident. They're saying how the LAPD is behind them 100%. And then PK goes on to say that it's really amazing how the kids are carrying on like nothing happened. Now remember, the kids still don't know that a robbery took place. And I have to say, it's just so crazy that this huge robbery took place and those kids literally have no idea that that happened to their mom. But I do understand why they wouldn't want to say anything to the kids because the kids are really little. I think they're like 7 and 5, so yeah, I wouldn't want to say anything either. So now PK goes on to say how they're really blessed that they weren't harmed, and then he adds that Dorit's ability to be so composed during such a crazy situation is remarkable. He says that he's proud of her, and then we learn that Dorit's father was in the Israeli army. So he taught her how to be, just calm under pressure. And that's why she was able to just conduct herself and not freak out when the robbers came and held her at gunpoint. Now, let me just say this. I have so much respect and admiration for people who are able to compose themselves during very high alert and very life or death situations because I don't know if I'd be able to think clearly. Okay, I think I would have been crying and screaming and hollering. I probably would have woke the kids up. Yeah. So hearing that she was just so calm and she was able to just gather herself and just make sure that she was okay and her kids were okay, that's a feat. And that's one of those situations where you truly don't know what you would do in a situation like that. So now we move on to two parallel scenes. We see Rena and Kyle out to lunch and Sutton and Crystal doing some cake tasting. And when I tell you that those cakes looked amazing, they were eating this peach cobbler with some crepes and it just looked amazing. I mean, my mouth was watering. And it was so funny because Sutton kept calling it a pancake cake. But Miss Sutton had me screaming because she was sitting up there talking about the difference between a holiday peach cobbler and a summer peach cobbler and how she can taste the difference. So now Crystal makes a joke and says that Erika will be the only other person in this group to know the difference too because she's also from Georgia the same way that Sutton is. Oh, and a quick side note to all my Southern subscribers, is there a difference between a holiday peach cobbler and a summer peach cobbler? Let me know down in the comments. So of course, Sutton now brings up the whole drama between her and Rena, and she says, look, it was a miscommunication, I didn't mean any harm, and I don't want any ill will between me and Lisa. So now we flip to the scene with Kyle and Rena talking. Of course, they're discussing this whole debacle with Sutton saying that she bought Harry and Lisa's tickets to the Elton John event. And Lisa says that Sutton should have never brought her husband Harry Hamlin's name into the mix. So she says that Harry actually texted Sutton and told her that they've been guests of Elton John's for years and years, and Sutton never responded. Now I said it's just so funny because we always hear on these shows that the husbands need to stay out of the women's business, right? So the fact that Harry Hamlin texted Sutton to tell her what's what, I said, oh, okay, so that's okay. So if another husband jumps in and texts one of these other wives, then it's going to be a problem. But Harry Hamlin can do it. Got it. So now Rena goes on to say, look, it's okay if you want to drag my name through the mud, but when you involve my husband, no ma'am. And it's just so funny that the biggest instigator and pot stirrer on this cast has the nerve to say that somebody else should have kept their mouth shut. So now we get to the next scene, and it is the night of Harry Hamlin's 70th birthday dinner. Now, I do have to say that Harry Hamlin does look good. He's a handsome man, and he looks very good for 70. So Rena and Harry show up to the Andaz, and let me just quickly say that the Andaz is a gorgeous hotel. I used to live a few blocks away when I lived in LA. I lived in West Hollywood, and I went to a few parties there a few times, and just stunning. Not gonna lie, I have my days where I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to move back to LA. But again, that's another story and another video for another time. Let's not get sidetracked. Now I said, damn it, Rena. One thing about me, I'm not a hater. I'm gonna always give credit where credit is due. But if you do nothing else, you can put an outfit together. Because this yellow outfit gave me everything I needed and more. That was Chef's kiss. I mean, it was tailored to perfection. But that's how you do it. You look good so that even if people can't stand you, they can never come for your looks. I'm just saying. I definitely follow that advice, as you can see, especially when it's a recap where I know that you guys might not agree with me. And it's like, look, make sure you beat that face extra good, okay? Because they're gonna tear you up about what you're about to say. No, but I'm joking. For the most part, you guys are good. Like, everybody's respectful. I mean, you always have a few people who get out of line, and for that, I just block because I don't get paid to argue with folks down in the comments. So, I mean, you guys are respectful. You have a few bad apples here and there, but they just go into the block list. But, you know, for the most part, you guys are great. If you do disagree, you're like, Brooke, I just disagree with you. And that's fine. But when you start to get, you know, you calling me some names and you saying this and the third, now we got an issue. And it should never be that deep over a TV show, okay? Especially about women who are fighting and acting a fool. Okay, but back to the party. Harry and Rinna are going over the seating arrangements. Harry makes a joke that Sutton is sitting at the end of the table, and Rinna says, yeah, that's how I wanted it to be. So now we flash to Mauricio, PK, Kyle, and Dorit on their way to the party. So Kyle brings up Sutton, and she's like, did Sutton text you, you know, asking you guys how you were about the robbery? And PK interrupts and says, she didn't come over to the house. So Dorit says, no, it's fine. She reached out via text, but she didn't come over. But honestly, we don't have that kind of close friendship where she'd come over to the house to check on me. I said, baby, PK was in his feelings, honey. He's keeping a record of who checked up on them and who didn't. But I'm petty too because I do the same thing. So now Kyle starts airing out her grievances about Sutton and low-key throws her under the bus, in my opinion. She says that Sutton's Instagram post was really insensitive. She's like, you know, you just got robbed, held at gunpoint, and she's posting on Instagram about Thirsty Thursdays and having a margarita. Now, let me just say this. I can see both sides of it, right? I can understand Kyle feeling a type of way, like, girl, really? You can't wait a day or two to post that? But then I could see Sutton being kind of absent-minded and feeling like, well, I did reach out to them. I did check on them via text message. So why do I need to curtail my IG post because of what just happened? You know? And then you know how some people do on Instagram where if somebody in their family or their friend group is ill or something terrible happened, they might still post something that's like happy, but on their Instagram story, they'll post about their loved one who has, you know, been in a tragedy. You know what I'm saying? So maybe Sutton posted something about it on her stories. I don't know. But I could definitely see where Kyle was coming from. And I could see Sutton maybe feeling like, well, girl, you know, why do I have to not post on my Instagram because of that happening? I can definitely see both sides. Let me know what you guys think. Did you think that Kyle was kind of reaching about the Instagram post? Did you agree? Let me know. So now Kyle really adds fuel to the fire, and she brings up when Sutton came over to her house the other day and how Sutton was talking about how her French designer couldn't come to the States and how she was putting out a lot of fires and how she made the comment saying, well, I wasn't held at gunpoint. So now PK is pissed. He's like, wait, what? Dorit is obviously annoyed too. And Mauricio even says, I mean, really, like, you're talking about your French designer, like, those aren't really problems. Like, it's all very trivial. And he's right about that. And Sutton, let this be a lesson to really watch what you say when you're talking to Kyle. Because Kyle will run and tell what somebody said in a heartbeat. I mean, she couldn't wait to tell PK and Dorit what was said. I have to say, even though Kyle is super sensitive, she is always ready to tell somebody some bad news about what was being said about them. Because she was just chomping at the bit to tell PK and Dorit what Sutton was saying. I just said, a mess. But we flip back over to the hotel. Everybody's arriving. Erika arrives. Now, again, y'all know how I feel about Erika, but I'd be lying through my teeth if I said that that dress that she had on wasn't everything. So Erika, if you're watching this, don't say I never said anything nice about you. Do you see the way everybody flirts with Harry Hamlin? I mean, Erika was flirting hard. Because when Harry made the joke saying, well, now that your ex is out of the picture, now I'm the oldest in the group. And when she was like, oh no, you're not old, you're just the wisest. And when he was like, ooh, like I just love this woman and she's single now. And when she said, yeah, you know, me, you, and Lisa could have a threesome. And Rinna was looking at her like, now sis, I know that me and you were close and all that, but don't try it. Garcelle arrives. She's greeted warmly by Harry Hamlin and Rena, because remember that they've all made up. Harry Hamlin makes a joke about how there's spaghetti bolognese on the menu. And remember last season, all the sauce drama, because Rena felt like Garcelle didn't thank Harry enough for the sauce that he made her. But I am curious to see how Rena and Garcelle's friendship plays out this season. So now Sutton, Crystal, and Crystal's husband Rob arrive, and it's awkward because Sutton is on the outs with Harry Hamlin, Lisa Rinna, and also Erika. So, of course, she's feeling a type of way, and she's talking to Garcelle on the side, and she makes a joke like, I don't know who to address first. Now we see Kyle, Dorit, PK, and Mauricio pull up, and Lisa Rinna reminds everybody that her good friend Diana Jenkins is going to be pulling up shortly. So lo and behold, Miss Diana Jenkins comes through with her boyfriend Asher hand in hand with a bottle of Croatian wine. So off rip, you can look at Diana, you can already catch the vibe, and you can see that she's a very wealthy woman. The outfit, the jewelry, I mean, she was wearing a good few $1 million on her. And I was trying to place who Diana kind of resembles, and she sort of resembles Melania Trump. But baby, we learn a lot about Miss Diana Jenkins, honey. She is very wealthy. And on top of that, she is the it girl of Europe. And she hangs out with the glitterati, like Crystal said. And she is just a jet setter. She lives that life. She used to be married to a very wealthy top investment banker in the world. Got a huge divorce settlement, I think around $250 million. So this is a woman who has money on top of money on top of money. And I was reading up on her, and I saw that she had sold her home to the founder of WhatsApp. And she sold it for like $185 million. So yeah, I mean, Diana makes pretty much everybody look like paupers. And I couldn't stop laughing at how Sutton was eyeing Diana's boyfriend. She was like, Asher's very dashing. They should call him Dasher. So they all sit down to eat. The first course comes out. It's a burrata salad, which looked amazing. And now Erika, since she's sitting right next to Rinna, she's like, Rinna, are you going to introduce me to your friend? And I was just kind of like, girl, you really are thirsty to meet this woman. I mean, Erika was like fanned out over Diana. And when she was like, you know, Diana, I've heard so much about her. Like, she's just fabulous. You know, she's always on a yacht. She's on a plane. You know, she spends a month in Paris. Like, I want that to be me. It was just so funny because Erika is usually so cool, calm, and collected. She's very dry. So to see her kind of fanned out over somebody else, it was like, wait, what? Like, Erika? Really? I said, wow, the inner social climber just jumped out. So now PK's at the table discussing the robbery, how they only made off with purses and didn't really take any of the expensive jewelry. And I was like, PK, don't you think that it's best to keep your mouth shut? It's sort of like you're inviting the robbers to come back and rob you guys again, talking about, yeah, you know, they only made off with just the purses, that's it. It was like, shut up. And then when he was talking about the watch that was $60,000, I said again, PK, y'all just got robbed. The suspects are still on the loose. Like, just be quiet. Don't talk about this. So now Rinna turns to Diana and she's like, oh yeah, by the way, Dorit and PK just got robbed. So Diana says, oh my gosh, you know, I was with Kim Kardashian when she was robbed in France. Like, I had a funny feeling and I kept saying, Kim, like, I want to leave Paris. Like, I just don't feel right. I don't feel safe. And so I ended up leaving the day before she was robbed. As Diana's talking, her Cartier rings are just glistening in the light. And Kyle is like, girl, that is a lot of Cartier for one hand. So now Kyle starts trying on her rings. And Diana had me cracking up because she was like, look, I grew up really poor and now I'm really rich, so I just want to buy everything, okay? It's called nouveau riche.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
Let me just give you guys some quick thoughts about what I think about Diana. She's definitely Housewives material. The money, interesting storyline, a fascinating life, a boyfriend or fiance 15 years younger than her. She definitely hits all the check marks for a housewife. I think that Diana is going to bring a lot of drama as well. I'm curious to see how Diana and Erika get along. Diana, you can tell she's a very strong personality. She's very confident, very self-assured. Erika has a very strong personality, so I'm curious to see how they're going to get along. But welcome to the fold, Diana. I'm excited to see what she's gonna bring. She's already bringing all the glamour, all the wealth. I mean, I was here for all that jewelry. I mean, I was like, okay, like I need to step my jewelry game up for real. Like I need to take my behind down to Van Cleef and Arpels and Cartier and really just make something shake. So now the husbands separate to talk and Mauricio's getting to know Asher, Diana's fiance, and he's saying how he's a musician, he was into Broadway, and that's what he does. So hearing that, I said, okay, Asher is cute, but Diana, if you do plan on walking down that aisle, you have a massive fortune, you better be getting an ironclad prenup. And I mean ironclad prenup. So of course, at the ladies' table, the drama pops off. Dorit says that she's just so happy to be here and celebrating with them and how she's so blessed. So Sutton interrupts and says, well, speaking of being thankful for being here, I just want to say to Rena that I may have overspoken and I never meant to hurt you or Harry, and I'm sorry. So since Rena has to be so insufferable, she can't just accept the apology, she has to drag it out. So Rena says, well, I appreciate you apologizing, but let's be clear, you didn't buy any table or any of our seats. She then goes on to say that Sutton canceled the table at the last minute and her and Harry had to scramble to get tickets. So now Lisa goes on to say that she and Harry had to agree to do some IMDb interview in order to get tickets, and that's how they got in. And you know how Rena does. She gets real nasty when she thinks that she has something over you. So she's like, well, you know, if you want to get into it, then let's get into it. So now Garcelle interrupts and says, but Sutton, don't you have the receipt for the table? And I said, go ahead, Garcelle. I said, let him know that Miss Sutton has receipts. So now Diana jumps in to defend Rena, and she says that this whole conversation is déclassé and tacky. And I said, Diana, I know that you might be the wealthiest at this table, but you just got here. And I was so happy when Garcelle said, but Rena's the one who said that Sutton canceled the table, so let Sutton prove herself that Rena's lying. So Rena, being the copycat follower that she is, parrots her friend Diana and says, you know what, this whole thing is just so tacky and just so classless, and it's really embarrassing to the charity. So now Sutton says, look, you want to sit up here and say I'm lying? Well, I have the receipts. Lisa, you know good and damn well I didn't cancel any table. So now they start going back and forth. Sutton says that Rinna is slandering her, and then Rinna's being slick at the mouth, and she's like, oh, are you gonna sue me or something? And while this is going down, you have Erika in the background laughing like an evil maniac. I was like, girl, all these theatrics for what? Garcelle is getting annoyed. She's like, Sutton, if you have the receipts, please just pull it out of your damn purse and prove it. Baby, Sutton takes that receipt out of her purse, slaps it down on the table, and lo and behold, she did indeed buy the table, and she did buy Rinna and Harry's tickets for $11,500. I said,
I love it. I love it.
So Garcelle says, well, there it is. It's clear that Sutton paid for the table, and now Rinna wants to double talk and backpedal. It's like, girl, you were proven wrong. You need to be the one apologizing to Sutton for saying that she was lying and canceled the table. So now Crystal jumps in and says that Diana can speak about this because Diana underwrites this charity and how she's actually a co-sponsor of this charity. Diana agrees and says that her and Elton John and Elton John's husband have been friends for a very long time. But I was confused, like, what does Diana being a co-sponsor of this charity have to do with Rinna saying that Sutton canceled the table when Sutton didn't? And did anybody almost scream at their TV when Rinna said, you know, the fact that Sutton brought receipts to one-up me at my husband's birthday dinner, and then one of our good friends got held at gunpoint, it's like, what's wrong with her? I said, what does any of this have to do with anything? You said that Sutton was lying and canceled the table. She has the receipts that she indeed paid for the table and bought both of your seats. And you can't just say, you know what, Sutton, you were right. Now you want to flip this on Sutton like she did something to you. If Sutton had been found out to be a liar, you would have been gloating the whole rest of the night, right? But when you're bested, now it's an issue. I said the logic just makes no sense. And also, where was this energy about, oh, this is tacky to discuss, when Kyle was saying that Garcelle didn't pay the $5,000 for her charity event? Remember that? When Kyle tried to embarrass Garcelle at that reunion? Where was all that? They were all laughing and snickering because they all thought that Garcelle didn't pay. But now with Sutton and Rinna, now it's just so déclassé and just so tacky. So now Sutton says, I apologize, Rinna. I stepped in it and I own it. And I said, but Rinna owes her an apology for lying on her and saying that she canceled the table. So now Erika jumps in and says to Sutton, where's my apology? Sutton, without missing a beat, says, you don't get one because I don't like you. I said, Sutton, thank you, Jesus. I was so proud of Miss Sutton in this moment. I said, girl, yes. And you could tell that Erika was super pressed about it because she did that fake laugh. And then she was like, you know what, Sutton? Go F yourself. And when Sutton said, you go F yourself, I said again, thank you, Jesus. I said, like I told you last season, Sutton, leave that whole Southern Belle stuff at home. And now Garcelle says, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I'm over this. I didn't come here for all this drama. Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
So Sutton says, yeah, I'm out too. So they're upset that Sutton and Garcelle are leaving. And now Garcelle says, look, I'm leaving because it's just too much. Like, she's apologized to you. You don't want to move on. Like, it's a mess. So now Sutton goes over to Rinna, and now they hug it out and they're cool again. So while Rinna and Sutton are hugging it out, Kyle says that their reconciliation is nauseating to watch. And I was like, but weren't you just the one who was upset when they were arguing? You just said to move on and make peace. Now that they're doing it, now you're upset to see it? So now we jump to the next scene with Diana. She's at home, gorgeous home. She's a full staff. She's a chef in the kitchen, her housekeeper, her stylist. Like, it's a full house. And she's letting us know that she lives a very busy and jet-set life. She owns about 5 or 6 homes. She's always traveling, always on the go. And she says that it's challenging because she always wants to take her whole entire staff with her wherever she goes. We learned that Diana grew up very poor in a communist country, and when she was 19, war broke out, and her father was determined to get her out of the country. So she says that she fled to London, left her whole family behind, and it was just really tough because when she got to London, she had no money, no passport, and she was taking any job to put food on the table. She says that she met her ex-husband when she was in London. He was a top investment banker in the world. And it was so funny when the producer was asking her, how did she feel when she got her first million? And she was like, I felt really rich. And it was just funny because I had barely even scratched the surface because her ex-husband has a ton of money. She continues on by saying that she got divorced because she just wasn't happy. She wanted her freedom and she also wanted her own identity. And then we also find out that her and her ex-husband share 2 children together. They have a 19-year-old daughter who's an equestrian and she's training for the Olympics soon. So I was like, okay, like that's really awesome. And then she has her 22-year-old son, and then she has her 1-year-old daughter with her fiance, Asher. Diana says that her and Asher met at a Victoria's Secret party, and it was supposed to be like a fun little fling, and it turned into a full-blown relationship. And I said, yeah, I'm sure when Asher met her, and then when he Googled her and saw who she was and her net worth was, he said, oh yeah, it's gonna be more than a fling. I said, you guys know how I am. I'm always a little bit skeptical when these men start dating these very wealthy women. I said, Like I said earlier, I think that Diana is a fabulous addition to Beverly Hills. I'm going to keep watching a few more episodes so I make my decision about if I like her or not, because y'all know how it is. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just love so-and-so. And then by the end of the season, I'm like, you know what, guys? You guys were right. I can't stand her. She's terrible. So we get to the final scene of the episode, and Kyle and Sutton are hanging out, and they're at Sutton's store. And I'm always curious to know how Sutton's store is doing. Like, is she making money? Like, I'm just really curious because every time you see it, it's always kind of empty. But a very beautiful store. I will say that Sutton does have good taste. So they sit down to catch up, and Sutton is talking about her event that's coming up soon and how the theme is going to be a Parisian in LA. So now she's going on about how she's a Francophile. Kyle's like, wait, girl, what? So Sutton says that means a person who loves France. So Kyle's like, okay, girl, whatever. I have to ask you something. Are you okay? So Sutton says, I mean, yeah, like why? Like what's going on? So Kyle says, I just have to tell you that the other day when you came over to my Bel Air home, I was a bit turned off at your reaction to the news of Dorit and PK being robbed. She continues by saying that Sutton was really insensitive and just very blasé about the whole thing. So Sutton really isn't understanding what Kyle is trying to say. She's like, look, I'm sorry, okay? I was having a hard day that day. Kyle is super frustrated. She's like, Sutton, it just seemed like you didn't give a shit. So now Sutton's like, stop, Kyle, like, just stop. Now Sutton says, look, I just don't deal well with all that stuff. So Kyle's like, what, you mean emotions? Because baby, the way you were crying every day last season about you moving out of your house, like don't tell me that you don't deal well with emotions because you're very emotional. So Sutton says, I don't deal well with robberies or guns. And I'm like, no offense, Sutton, nobody does. Like, what are you talking about? So now Sutton brings up how her home was robbed when she was 14 and how her dad shot himself in the head. So she's like, are you happy now? Is that what you wanted? So Kyle's like, are you really doing this right now? Like, no offense, Sutton, it's not about you right now. I was cringing at what was coming out of Sutton's mouth. I'm like, Sutton, you need to learn how to read the room. A simple, you know what, Kyle, you're right. It came off as insensitive. I should have shown more care to what Dorit and PK are going through. But to bring up what you went through when you were a teenager, and then to bring up, your father, I was just like, Sutton, what's going on? I want to give Sutton the benefit of the doubt that maybe she just gets flustered and says the wrong thing, but I really can't imagine that she doesn't care at all about what Dorit's going through. But I just said, Sutton, girl, it's going to be real tough for you at this reunion. because you know that Kyle and Dorit are going to drag this out. But y'all, that's where the episode ends. And when I tell you guys that I am so excited for this season, we are really in for a treat. The addition of Diana Jenkins, then we also have Garcelle's good girlfriend, Cherie Zampino, who is also Will Smith's ex-wife, and she was on Hollywood Exes coming on as a friend of the show. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a lot of drama, a lot of wealth, just very exciting. So I'm here for it. These first 2 episodes were just chef's kiss. Couldn't have been better. And Beverly Hills always brings it. But guys, I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.